The Long Island serial killer. The Gilgo Beach murders. The Long Island serial killer, LISK, also known as the Gilgo Beach killer, is a still unidentified murderer who is believed to have killed between 10 and 16 people, primarily women, over a period of nearly 2 decades. The killer's victims were found in the remote, marshy areas along Gilgo Beach on Long Island, New York. To this day, the identity of the Long Island serial killer remains unknown, and the case is one of the most chilling unsolved serial murder investigations in modern U.S. history. The discovery of the bodies. The Gilgo Beach murders came to light in December 2010, when a police officer and his canine dog were searching for 24-year-old Shannon Gilbert, a missing sex worker who had disappeared earlier that year. Gilbert had been last seen running through a Long Island neighborhood, knocking on doors and pleading for help before vanishing. During the search for Gilbert, authorities stumbled upon the remains of several other victims along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach, starting with the discovery of 4 bodies. These initial discoveries were shocking enough, but as investigators continued to search the area, they found more human remains, including dismembered body parts scattered over several miles of remote terrain. In total, the remains of 10 people were uncovered between 2010 and 2011, with additional parts belonging to unidentified victims found in the years following. The victims were predominantly young women, many of whom worked as sex workers or escorts. Most of the victims were found wrapped in burlap sacks, and many had been strangled. Some of the bodies were dismembered, with various parts found in different locations along the beach and nearby areas. The sheer scale of the crime scene and the chilling brutality of the murders led authorities to believe that they were dealing with a prolific serial killer who had been active for years, perhaps even decades. The victims. The confirmed victims of the Long Island serial killer range from women in their early 20s to middle-aged women. Most of the victims had connections to the sex trade, working as escorts or advertising services on websites like Craigslist and Backpage. The police believe the killer lured many of his victims through these platforms, arranging meetings before murdering them, and disposing of their bodies in the remote areas near Gilgo Beach. While the majority of the victims were women, the remains of a young Asian male were also found among the bodies, adding a layer of complexity to the killer's profile. Additionally, the remains of a toddler were discovered near one of the victims, believed to be the child of one of the murdered women, further deepening the mystery. The victims include 1. Melissa Barthélemy, 24. 2. Megan Waterman, 22. 3. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25. 4. Amber Lynn Costello, 27. 5. Jessica Taylor, 20. 6. Valerie Mack, 24, formerly identified as Jane Doe No. 6. 7. Shannon Gilbert, 24, her cause of death is still disputed. 8. Unidentified remains, belonging to other women and a young Asian male. The dismembered remains found in the area suggest that the killer was meticulous and took extreme measures to ensure the bodies would be difficult to identify. Shannon Gilbert, and the theories. The investigation into the Long Island serial killer took a strange turn with the case of Shannon Gilbert. Unlike the other victims, Gilbert's cause of death remains officially undetermined. Some believe she drowned accidentally after running through the marsh, panicked and disoriented, while others, including Gilbert's family, believe she was murdered by the same killer. Gilbert's disappearance sparked the search that led to the discovery of the other victims, but her connection to the Long Island serial killer remains unclear. Her remains were found in December 2011, about a year after the first bodies were uncovered, and while police initially ruled her death as accidental, her family pushed for further investigation. An independent autopsy suggested that Gilbert may have been strangled, which aligned with the pattern seen in other LISK victims. The mysterious circumstances surrounding Gilbert's death fueled numerous theories, including speculation that she may have had contact with the killer before her death or that she may have been a victim of a different predator altogether. The hunt for the killer. Since the discovery of the bodies, the Suffolk County Police Department, along with the FBI, have conducted an extensive investigation into the Long Island serial killer, but despite numerous leads, the identity of the killer remains a mystery. Over the years, several suspects have emerged, but none have been definitively linked to the murders. Some of the most prominent suspects include James Bissett, a local businessman, who owned a nursery and committed suicide shortly after the first bodies were discovered. Bissett's business supplied burlap, the same material found wrapped around many of the victims, leading to speculation that he could be involved. However, no concrete evidence has linked him to the murders. Dr. Peter Hackett, a former doctor who lived near where Shannon Gilbert disappeared. Gilbert's family accused Hackett of contacting them after her disappearance, claiming he ran a halfway house for women. While Hackett denied the allegations and no substantial evidence tied him to the murders, he remained a person of interest for some time. Joseph Brewer, the client who had hired Shannon Gilbert the night she disappeared. Brewer lived in Oak Beach, near where Gilbert vanished, and his behavior that night was questioned. However, Brewer was ultimately cleared by police as a suspect. There are also theories that the Long Island serial killer could be a member of law enforcement, given the killer's ability to evade capture and the remote locations where the bodies were found. Ongoing investigation and theories. To this day, the Long Island serial killer remains at large, and new information occasionally surfaces, though no conclusive breakthroughs have been made. In 2020, authorities released a photograph of a belt found at one of the crime scenes with the initials WH or HO engraved on it, hoping to generate new leads. However, this clue has not yet led to the identification of the killer. Theories about the killer's profile vary widely. Some believe the murderer is a seasoned predator who carefully chose vulnerable victims in the sex trade, knowing their disappearances might not raise immediate alarms. Others speculate that the killer may have had experience with law enforcement or knowledge of police procedures, given the calculated disposal of the bodies and the killer's ability to evade capture for so long. The legacy of fear. The Long Island serial killer has left a legacy of fear and mystery along the shores of Gilgo Beach. The case remains one of the most chilling unsolved serial murder investigations in modern American history, with many questions still unanswered. Families of the victims continue to push for justice, hoping that one day the killer will be caught and held accountable for the horrors he inflicted. The Long Island serial killer's ability to remain undetected for so long raises unsettling questions about the nature of serial killers, the vulnerabilities of certain populations, and the challenges of solving complex, long-term investigations. As the case continues to unfold, the hunt for the Gilgo Beach killer remains one of the most haunting mysteries of our time.